Your DNA might be hiding something extraordinary, a mutation that makes you immune to HIV. Blood so rare only 9 people on Earth can donate it. Genes borrowed from an extinct species of human. These aren't comic book superpowers. Here are 7 real genetic mutations some humans are actually born with. Number 1, golden blood. There's a blood type so rare that only about 43 people have ever been identified with it. It's called null, but doctors call it golden blood. Not because it's actually gold, but because of what it's worth. See, most people have dozens of Rh antigens on the surface of their red blood cells. People with golden blood have 0. None. Their cells are completely smooth. And here's the wild part. That makes them the ultimate universal donors within the Rh system. Their blood can save people with rare blood types that no one else can match. But there's a catch. If someone with golden blood needs a transfusion, they can only receive blood from another golden blood donor. And there are only 9 active donors on the entire planet. 9. That's fewer than the number of people who have walked on the moon. People with this blood type are actually discouraged from riding motorcycles or joining the military, because if they get in an accident, doctors might have to make international phone calls to save their life. The mutation happens in a gene called rhag, and you need 2 copies, 1 from each parent. It's so rare that until 1961, scientists assumed you couldn't even survive without Rh antigens. Then they found a woman in Australia who proved them wrong. 1 in 6 million. That's the estimated frequency. Your blood might be rare, but it's probably not that rare. Number 2, the short sleep gene. Most people need around 8 hours of sleep to function, but about 1 in 1,000 people have a genetic mutation that lets them thrive on 4 to 6 hours with 0 negative effects. No brain fog, no increased disease risk, no shortened lifespan. They just need less sleep. The mutation is in a gene called DEC2, and it was discovered in 2009 when researchers at UC San Francisco studied a mother and daughter who both naturally woke up after about 6 hours feeling completely refreshed. Turns out, the gene controls orexin, a hormone that promotes wakefulness. Normally, DEC2 suppresses orexin as you sleep, but in people with this mutation, that suppression is weaker, so they stay alert longer without any downsides. Here's what's crazy. Over the course of a year, these people gain roughly 550 extra waking hours compared to the rest of us. That's enough time to learn a language or read about 50 books. And recent studies in flies suggest the mutation might actually extend lifespan and improve health, not hurt it. There's even evidence it could protect against Alzheimer's. But here's the kicker. If true short sleepers force themselves to sleep a full 8 hours, they often feel worse, groggy and sluggish. Their body doesn't want the extra sleep. So, no, you can't train yourself to need less rest. Either your DNA came with the upgrade or it didn't. Number 3, HIV immunity. In 1996, scientists discovered something remarkable. A small percentage of people are essentially immune to HIV infection, not because of anything they did, but because of a 32 base pair deletion in a gene called CCR5. Here's how it works. HIV needs a door to enter your immune cells, and that door is a receptor called CCR5. In people with this mutation, called CCR5 delta 32, the door is broken. It never reaches the cell's surface. So, when HIV shows up, it bounces off. About 1% of people with European ancestry carry 2 copies of this mutation, making them highly resistant to infection. Another 10 to 18% carry 1 copy, which doesn't make them immune but slows disease progression dramatically. And here's where it gets weird. This mutation is ancient. It spread through Europe centuries before HIV even existed. Scientists believe it protected against something else, probably smallpox or the bubonic plague. Natural. Selection pushed it through the population during epidemics. The mutation is essentially absent in African, East Asian, and Indigenous American populations because it arose in Northern Europe and spread from there. In 2007, a man named Timothy Ray Brown, known as the Berlin patient, was functionally cured of HIV after receiving a bone marrow transplant from someone with 2 copies of this mutation. His immune system was rebuilt with HIV-resistant cells. The virus vanished. It's one of the only cases of a true HIV cure, all because of a genetic accident from 1,000 years ago. If you're finding this interesting, consider subscribing. I drop videos like this regularly. Anyway, back to it. Number 4. Super strength from birth. Your body has a protein called myostatin, and its job is simple: limit muscle growth. Think of it as a governor on an engine. It prevents your muscles from getting too big. But in extremely rare cases, people are born with a mutation that disables myostatin entirely. And the result is kind of insane. The most famous case was a German boy reported in 2004. At 4.5 years old, he could hold 3-kilogram dumbbells with his arms fully extended. His thigh muscles were already larger than most adults. He hadn't trained for anything. His DNA just didn't have a brake pedal. His family had a history of unusual strength too. His grandfather was a construction worker who could unload heavy curbstones by hand. The mutation is incredibly rare, maybe 1 in 200,000 to 1 in 500,000 people. You've probably seen Belgian blue cattle, those absurdly muscular cows that look photoshopped. Same mutation. But here's the twist you don't hear about. More muscle doesn't mean proportionally more strength. Studies in mice showed that animals without myostatin had double the muscle mass, but only generated about 53% of the force per muscle unit, compared to normal mice. The muscle looks impressive, but may have lower quality, fewer mitochondria, reduced endurance. It's not exactly Wolverine, more like a car with a massive engine but bad transmission. Still remarkable, but biology rarely gives you something for nothing. Number 5, feeling no pain. This sounds like a superpower until you think about it for more than 5 seconds. Congenital insensitivity to pain, or CIP, is caused by mutations in a gene called SCN9A. This gene builds sodium channels in pain-sensing neurons. Without functional channels, pain signals can't travel from your body to your brain. You could break your arm, burn yourself on a stove, or step on broken glass and feel absolutely nothing. The first cases were identified in Pakistani families in 2006. Children with this condition often bite through their own tongues and lips without realizing it. Many have severe joint damage from injuries they never felt. One boy, famous for street performances in Pakistan, walking on coals, stabbing himself with knives, died at 13 from jumping off a roof. He had no concept of physical danger because danger never hurt. What makes this even more fascinating is that the same gene, when mutated differently, can cause the opposite condition. Primary erythromalgia, constant burning pain that never stops. Same gene, different mutation, completely opposite experience. Here's the thing. Pain exists to protect you. It's your body's alarm system. People with CIP live in a house where the smoke detector is permanently disabled. They're more vulnerable, not less. Some researchers are studying these mutations to develop new painkillers, trying to mimic the effects temporarily. But living without pain, that's not a gift. It's a liability wrapped in fascinating science. Number 6, total recall. Pick a random date from the last 20 years. For most of us, that day is a complete blank. We might remember major events, maybe a holiday, maybe nothing. But for fewer than 100 people on Earth, nearly every single day of their adult life is as vivid as yesterday. It's called highly superior autobiographical memory, or hsam. When you give someone with hsam a date, say January 15th, 1999, they can tell you what day of the week it was, what they did, what the weather was like, and what was on the news. The first case was a woman named Jill Price, who described her memory as a running movie that never stops. She can't forget even when she wants to. One participant, when asked what happened on October 19th, 1987, immediately answered, "It was a Monday. That was the day of the big stock market crash, and the cellist Jacqueline Dupre died that day." Verified 97% accurate on testable details. Here's what's surprising, though. People with hsam perform normally on standard memory tests. They're not better at memorizing grocery lists or studying for exams. Their ability is specific to autobiographical events, personal experiences attached to dates, and many of them describe it as exhausting, not a gift. Every embarrassment, every heartbreak, every failure stays vivid forever. They can still form false memories like everyone else. hsam doesn't mean perfect accuracy. It means you can't escape your past. Fewer than 70 confirmed cases exist worldwide. The brain differences are subtle, mostly involving enhanced connectivity and memory networks. But researchers are still trying to understand what makes these brains different and why most of us forget what we had for breakfast 3 days ago. Number 7, borrowed from the dead. At 14,000 feet, most people can barely breathe. Headaches, fatigue, altitude sickness. But Tibetans don't just survive at those elevations. They thrive. They work, run, and raise families in an environment that would cripple most humans. The secret? A gene called hsam, and they didn't evolve it. They inherited it from an extinct species of human. About 40,000 years ago, the ancestors of modern Tibetans interbred with denisovans, a mysterious human species we only know from a finger bone and some teeth found in a Siberian cave. The denisovans passed on a variant of hsam that changes how the body responds to low oxygen. Here's what's counterintuitive. Most people at high altitude produce more hemoglobin to carry more oxygen, but that thickens the blood, makes it sludgy, leads to clots, strokes, and chronic mountain sickness. Tibetans do the opposite. Their hsam variant keeps hemoglobin low, their blood stays thin, their circulation stays smooth. They avoid the problems that plague everyone else. The gene spread from fewer than 10% of the population to nearly 90% in just 3,000 years. That's the fastest documented genetic change in human history. Massive selection pressure. People who didn't have it died. People who did passed it on. Tibetan babies born at altitude are heavier and healthier than non-Tibetan babies born at the same elevation. The gene also shows up in Tibetan wolves, Tibetan mastiffs, and Tibetan horses. Convergent evolution. The same solution, independently discovered by different species facing the same problem. So, when you hear about people climbing Everest without supplemental oxygen, know that for some of them, it's not just training, it's ancient DNA borrowed from a species that no longer exists. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next one. See you.